fetus or not to Yeetus is not the question the government should dictate, but the individual's choice.
Could you define Yeetus the fetus for us?
Yeet.
So first off, my first question, I just wanted to ask what both of your pronouns are so I can refer to you respectfully.
I hope that it is obvious.
Well, I can't hear.
What is your pronoun?
It is not obvious.
Post-rogen.
That's why I
My
asked.
pronoun is post-rogen.
I'm a woman, I have a uterus, I have XX chromosomes, I'm incredibly proud of that fact. Yes.
But I think the fact that we had to put up barricades to protect us like I'm some freaking rock star proves that this campus has a problem, and there's other campuses across the nation who have a problem, that they're fostering an environment on college campuses that allow this behavior. Let me tell you one thing. If I have to pay for bomb-sniffing dogs, if I have to pay for police services, which we had to pay today, if I have to pay for private bodyguards, free speech isn't free. I love how you're laughing when we're talking about a very tragic situation. You were laughing during your rape question. Yeah, you've been laughing the whole time, and I find it very callous that you asked a question about survivors of rape, and then try to use that question to justify 100% abortions, and the entire time you're smirking at me.
Did you know
awesome.
married pro-life religious people actually have the best sex lives?
Married?
What?
You know what, I'm exhausted. Like, adios.
Okay.
Y'all.
Thank you for barking at us.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Don't worry, we feel like rock stars being here today.
I know, it feels like we're at a concert.
Yeah, I know,
High
like
school
we
theater
feel like we might need to
probably
break
is not.
out in some song at some point. Happy will rush us. Thank you all for coming in. I really appreciate you all coming in to hear the presentation and Isabel and I's speech tonight. You know, in order for any human rights atrocity to take root, those who seek to do harm always have to first do one thing, and that's dehumanize the group they are intent on destroying. In the case of legal abortion, the very first advocates actually for abortion weren't women who felt oppressed by their God-given biology to protect and birth new life. No, it was men. Greedy men who wanted to profit off of the despair of women, elitist men who believed the eugenic lies that the world was full of quote-unquote undesirable populations. So it was disinformation that they had to begin to spread in order to conscript millions of women to their extremist pro-abortion beliefs, that some human beings aren't worthy of life, and that paying to end the life of an inconvenient other was morally neutral. Tonight, Isabel and I are going to debunk the misinformation of the abortion lobby, the lies that they've spoon-fed you online, via the news media, in your classrooms, to condition you to see the human being in the womb as less than you, simply because of their size, their age, their location, or their circumstance of conception, to cause you to tolerate abortion, despite the fact that you know or should know as college students that every abortion ends a unique human being. And we know that misinformation is clearly here at the University of New Hampshire. So tonight, the goal is to end the misinformation. Now, I want to be clear that I believe many of those who support abortions or whose in action have allowed abortion to continue, I believe many of them have simply been duped by the abortion lobby. Their compassion for women twisted into complicitness for abortion. We are not here to say that those people out in the hall are stupid or uncaring. We simply believe they are wrong, and they've fallen victim to the billion-dollar abortion industry's lies. And our charge tonight is to recruit you and them into giving the pro-life movement a second look and to recruit you into joining the pro-life generation, the tens of thousands of young people across America who every day, just like the Students for Life group here at UNH, are changing minds about the violence of abortion and challenging the status quo on their campuses to support pregnant and parenting young people, to transform the college campus experience to be a place where no woman ever again feels like she has to choose between the life of her child and her education or her future career. We want to be very clear. if you've had an abortion, you're considering abortion, or maybe you know someone who's considering abortion. We want you to know that there is help available to you right now. You can go to supportafterabortion.com, be connected with licensed counselors in any part of the country. You can go to Students for Life's own website, standingwithyou.org, and put in your zip code and immediately get connected to thousands of public and private healthcare facilities who will support you. And you can also go to findahealthcenter.hrsa.gov to be connected with more than 8,000 fairly qualified health centers that provide every service Planned Parenthood provides, minus abortion, plus a whole host more. Before Isabel and I begin our presentation and debunking the 10 pro-choice lies you commonly hear, I want to begin our presentation by simply explaining the pro-life position. Our anti-abortion position is actually very simple. I am anti-abortion because every abortion ends the life of a unique, whole human being. I believe all human beings are valuable and should fundamentally have a right to life to be born. Therefore, I'm against the violence of abortion. Whether it's a suction device, a pill that starves a new human of nutrition, a sofa clamp that locks on and then tears a limb, or a needle that delivers a drug to induce a cardiac arrest, a heart attack, abortion is the violent ending of a human being simply because someone else, a privileged, stronger person, decided that they were too much of an inconvenience to be allowed a fundamental freedom. Now, before we begin, we're going to go back and forth, debunking the 10 pro-choice lies you most often hear. If you are pro-choice, we invited everyone outside to come in to have a dialogue with us. If you are pro-choice, if you fundamentally disagree with Isabel and I's position tonight, we want to pause our speech, our regularly program, and invite you to come to the podium and ask any questions you have before we even begin our presentation. If you're pro-life, we'd ask you to remain seated, and we'll do a further and a longer Q&A at the end of the presentation.
We have a microphone right here in the middle of the room just to make sure that we can hear you, because I know there's a lot going on in the hallway, but we would invite anybody to ask any question right now. We are big believers in dialogue. That's what college campuses and academia are supposed to be all about. So if you are one of the few that decided to break free from your peers and come in, we're so happy that you are here to have this conversation, and you are invited to come ask any question that you want.
Do we have anyone who wants to ask a question?
I will ask a question.
Awesome.
Sure.
Oh, is this microphone working?
Yes.
Okay. Do you support increasing gay sex to reduce abortions?
Do I support increasing gay sex to reduce abortions? Wow.
That's not really a position we take about whether or not there should be more or less gay sex. We would simply say if you're a heterosexual and you choose to engage in heterosexual activity, that you should then be mature enough to face the consequences of your decision, and heterosexual sex has some interesting consequences. One of them is the creation of a unique, whole, living human being that's never existed before, will never exist again.
I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
What if someone's raped?
What if someone's raped? Do you want me to answer or do you want to answer?
We both can.
Okay. I've answered this one a lot.
Yeah, this is one of the most common questions that we get about taking a pro-life position. What if we're talking about a woman who did not become pregnant via a choice of having voluntary sex, but who had that choice taken away from her, like rape or incest, which are horrifying situations. And we are not standing up here to demean any of that trauma that every single one of those people go through in situations like rape and incest. In fact, it's that trauma that we think society isn't focusing enough on. Abortion, like rape or incest, is also trauma. So we don't believe in treating an injustice with more injustice. A, by giving the death penalty to an innocent person who did not make the choice to rape another person, but B, by subjecting a woman who has been raped or is a victim of incest to dealing with more anxiety, depression, and a significantly higher likelihood of committing suicide later on in her life by obtaining an abortion.
Are you Are you against abortion in all the other cases beyond rape or incest or the life of the mother?
I just think it's a woman's choice, and it's a medical decision, and the government should not be involved in that.
So are you trotting out the pain that a rape survivor has endured in order to justify 100% of all abortions? Is that what you just did?
Am I trotting out?
Yeah,
Or
trotting out.
is rape being used as a reason to justify 99.9% of abortions?
I don't think there needs to be a justification for abortion. I think it's a healthcare
If I'm
procedure, and
if
it's part
I'm
of the
not,
woman's
if
body.
I'm 9 months pregnant and I find out that my child, the fetus growing inside of me is a female, do you have any problem with me saying no, I wanted a boy and aborting it?
It's a woman's body. I don't care what someone's reason is. It's healthcare. It's healthcare.
Okay,
So you're totally
how about,
fine with
how
that.
about a person dealing with severe disability who's hooked up to life support and is a grown adult? It's a medical decision whether or not to end that person's life against their will. Are you okay with something like that?
When would a situation occur in which they would be, how is that comparable?
Iron lungs, comas. I mean, there's all kinds of situations
Every day in
where
America.
everyday adults need the external support of something else, and it's a medical decision whether or not to end that unique, genetically unique human life against their will. Is that okay?
Isn't that kind of using a straw man against something that hasn't developed? You're comparing a whole person to something that hasn't developed a consciousness scientifically.
That's our whole point. So as you all were coming in, thankfully you guys were coming in, and I applaud you for coming in.
Thank you, genuinely.
When I was outlining the entire pro-life premise is that we believe, because science tells us that the moment conception, unique whole living human being has come into existence, that human being has the same value than you. That all human beings are equally valuable simply because of what they are, not because of their size, level of development, or their location.
And
so
that's
there's no
supported.
fundamental difference between the adult you are, the adolescent you are, I don't know your age right now, versus the fetus or embryo or zygote you once were. You didn't come from those things. You once were an embryo or fetus or a zygote. Does that make sense?
Yes. I also have another follow-up question.
Sure.
What if the woman's life is in danger? The woman will die if she
Yep.
gives birth. Would you support abortion in that instance?
Also, an incredibly common talking point that we hear a lot about. Every time you hear this, what if a woman is going to die if her pregnancy does not end immediately? I want you to know this. In 2023 America, with all of the medical technology that we have, with all of the modern medical innovation that we have, that premise does not exist.
That's right.
It doesn't. A good OBGYN will deliver that child alive and put that child in the NICU and do everything that they possibly can to save both the life of the mother and the child.
Do you know how a late-term abortion is done?
I don't know the medical specifics of it because I'm not a doctor.
Okay, well, I can Google and I can talk to doctors, and I have many friends who are OBGYNs. And so a late-term abortion is conducted. It used to be called a DNX procedure, partial birth abortion procedure. The Supreme Court ruled that it was too gruesome. There was no medical reason in 2007 to commit these abortions. So now today in America, after 21 or so weeks, a late-term abortion is committed using a needle. And they will use ultrasound guided technology to put a long needle into the woman's abdomen, similar to what they do with the amniocentesis when they're testing for if the child has Down syndrome. But what they do, instead of withdrawing amniotic fluid, they actually insert digoxin or potassium chloride as close to the baby's heart as possible. This drug will cause a cardiac arrest, a heart attack. They will then insert lumeria, seaweed sticks, into the mother's vagina to ripen her cervix. And then she is told to come back to the abortion facility 2 to 3 days later, hoping by that time the child has died and she will birth a dead child. There is no medical reason in America today. So if a woman is going to die from being pregnant, this is an emergency situation. What the doctor and the surgeon will do is they will immediately take her to an OR and perform a cesarean section. They will deliver the child. Now the child may not be strong enough to survive outside of the womb without medical care, but there's no purpose. There's no reason. I love how you're laughing when we're talking about a very tragic situation. You were laughing during your rape question as well.
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing at that. I was laughing at
People outside.
Yeah, you've been laughing the whole time, and I find it very
I'm not
callous that
laughing.
you
I'm
ask
sorry.
a question
I am not laughing.
about survivors of rape, and then try to use that question to justify 100% abortions, and the entire time you're smirking at me. This is a tragic situation.
I'm sorry. This is just how my face looks normally. This is my resting face. I have one follow-up question. Are you aware of what an ectopic pregnancy is?
We are.
Yes,
It's
this is what I do for a living.
One of the lies on our little sandwich board outside, encouraging people to come in.
Are you saying they're not real?
That treatment for ectopic pregnancies, which are absolutely real, and treatment for miscarriages is fundamentally different than treatment, what we would call treatment for a voluntary abortion. Those are two dramatically different things.
Are you
from a
aware
medical
of a ban in
procedure
Missouri in which they tried to ban ectopic pregnancy abortions? That's what they tried to ban. So I'm just
also
saying.
one of our lies on the sandwich board, that all of these states are trying to imprison women who are seeking treatment for ectopic pregnancy or miscarriage. That's fundamentally not true. Look at the state of Florida.
The treatment for an
that just
ectopic
passed-
pregnancy is not an abortion. An abortion, what they will do is they will actually have to remove the fetus, the embryo, the zygote, from her fallopian tube, usually by cutting a piece of her fallopian tube off and then surgically stitching together. I know this not because I'm a doctor, but because I've birthed and gestated 4 human beings inside of me. And so this is a very real concern to anyone who's been pregnant before. So that is, the treatment for ectopic pregnancy is not considered a direct abortion. Some people may call it a therapeutic abortion, just like how we may call a natural miscarriage a spontaneous abortion. Because abortion, if you look up the definition, is the ending of a pregnancy. Birth can be considered an abortion because it's the ending of pregnancy. The question is it a direct abortion where the intent of the physician was to end that human life? That is not the intent of a physician going in to save a woman who's experiencing a life-threatening ectopic pregnancy. So yes,
well,
I
just want
ectopic
to point out that
pregnancy
there is a bill that was introduced in the Ohio State Legislature that requires doctors to reimplant an ectopic pregnancy into a woman's uterus, and a procedure that does not exist in medical science or face charges of abortion murder. I will leave
and
the
that
rest
bill
of the
didn't go
questions to the
anywhere.
people
That's
behind
not,
me.
that bill was not medically accurate. Now, I actually do know an OBGYN who has
You're
attempted
associated with Turning
experimental.
Point USA, correct?
No, I don't. No, I run a $20 million organization that I started at 21 called Students for Life of America and Students for Life Action. Thank you.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Do you have another question? Just tell me
I
behind
don't
you.
have any
questions.
other questions.
There are
I will
so
leave the
many
questions to other
powerful
people.
lies and misconceptions and talking points that are used to pull at your heartstrings to make you believe that women are going to literally die if abortion goes away in America, that women who have a miscarriage are going to end up in prison or be prosecuted. None of these things are true. That's why we're here, and we're excited to be answering some questions.
That's right.
So first off, my first question, I just wanted to ask what both of your pronouns are so I can refer to you respectfully.
I hope that it is obvious.
Well, I can't hear.
What is your pronoun?
It is not obvious.
Post-row
That's
gen.
why I
My
asked.
pronoun is post-row gen.
I'm a woman, I have a uterus, I have XX chromosomes. I'm incredibly proud of that fact. Yes.
Cool. You can still have all of those things and use any pronouns. That's why I'm asking to be respectful. But if you don't want to tell me your pronouns, then I guess I
She
can
knows my
refer
pronouns,
to you
post-row
as-
gen.
Okay.
Those are my pronouns. Accept them.
Sure.
What's your question?
And then my follow-up question was, what are your views on queer and trans parents?
Sorry, can you
What?
repeat that?
I can't with the mask.
What are your views on queer people and transgender people being parents?
Do we have?
I don't know that we
views?
necessarily have a specific view on that. We
No.
both have many friends who are queer people who are parents. We personally are not queer people. We are cisgender heterosexual women. You're a parent, I'm not yet. I would like to be someday, but we don't really have a specific view on that to share tonight.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, thank you for coming.
What would be my view that's different than anyone else's? I don't know.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm going to try and start over because there's a lot of noise going on. How do you measure a person's life or value, like based off of your own individual moral or ethical framework?
Can we
out
ask
of
you the same
curiosity?
question first?
Yeah, well,
When would you say a person has value?
I'm not super positive. I usually go based off of consciousness, and I'm a utilitarian. So I mostly based off how people perceive happiness and how that structure works within our society. Again, this this 9-month area is very fluid and subjective to a lot of people. I'm still trying to figure out, like, personally where my beliefs lie.
So
That's kind of
life
why
that
I'm-
doesn't have consciousness, does that not have value?
No, it does, but we have to deem it so as a group.
You have to deem it what, sorry?
We deem it
Deem
so
it
as
to
a
have
group. We do
value.
that. We do that now with elderly people who are in comas, people who are deemed to
Or how
not
about
wake
a
up.
single-celled organism on Mars? Is that life? Does it have value?
Currently, no.
Does a puppy
it's a
have
life.
value?
Yeah, but the puppy has consciousness. Would that single-cell organism on Mars have consciousness that we can deem currently?
Well, vacuoles and single-celled organisms throughout all of human history have had somewhat level of consciousness. They consume things, they grow.
But that's not human consciousness.
But the puppy has value.
Yeah, because we apply human consciousness to it.
Does
It
the
also
puppy
has a
have
higher
more,
interesting level of.
I'm trying to get this straight. Does the puppy in your mind, so like my puppy who turned 1 year old today, Rosie, she's a golden doodle
We love
teacup, she's
Rosie.
precious. Does she have more value in your mind than an unborn human fetus who might be 5 months old?
In what regard?
When you're talking about, we ascribe human consciousness feelings to dogs, even though they're not humans. Do you think that my 1 year old beautiful puppy, who was the county winner for the most beautiful puppy, do you think she has more value
puppy's
than the
cuter.
5-month-old human fetus in the womb?
To me, currently, yeah. I feel like most people would also have to agree.
Okay,
I'm not
so-
prescribing less life to that fetus, but personally, that
puppy's
person's
more-
dog would be
So
more
what
valuable.
if I were to ask you, what about babies having their own conscious thoughts in the womb? Or being able to voluntarily move around in the womb? Or feeling pain in the womb as early as 12 weeks of pregnancy, which we're starting to research more and that number is going down. Babies actually have their own sense of taste by the 21st week of pregnancy. That's how we start developing what food we like and don't like, and we feel our mother's emotions.
They're
when we're
having
in the
REM
womb.
cycle sleep at 18 weeks.
Again, I said like the 9-month period is still something I'm trying to explore.
Yeah.
I don't really know my whole beliefs.
So
It's
this
I
is
would
a-
say your beliefs are a slippery slope.
mine.
Yes, because I think when you start saying that human beings can have some value when they don't have consciousness, but human beings who have consciousness are more valuable, and puppies that definitely have consciousness but can't figure out where to pee yet in the house have more value than an unborn child. I think that's a very slippery slope. So
Why would a dog not being able to pee in the house mean it has less consciousness than a baby in utero?
why would, because my dog, she's not very
Because
smart.
she's a puppy.
Okay,
She
but that
pees
just
all
means
over the
that
place.
just means your dog is untrained.
Well, we're not trying to suggest that the dog doesn't have value, but I think what
No,
we're
my
trying to
dog has
say
value.
You are,
is
though, in a
the-
way.
The idea is, we get this question a lot, at some point during this 9-month nebulous period that you're trying to work through in your head, this child doesn't have value and then all of a sudden they do. People have all kinds of different answers for that. Some say 12 weeks after the first trimester, some say 15 weeks, which is just an incredibly arbitrary, weird number. Some people say 20, 21 weeks, because that's when we know babies have been born and have survived outside of their mother's womb as early as 20, 21 weeks of pregnancy, and that goes down again as our medical technology continues to advance. Some people say when the baby can feel pain. Some people say when the baby has a brain. Some people say, I mean, it's just totally different. Some people say it's not until the baby actually goes through the magical birth canal of the human vagina and takes a deep breath for herself that she all of a sudden has value and consciousness as an autonomous human being. So when we keep playing all of these different games, it's easy to see how someone can just pick an arbitrary cutoff or an arbitrary designation, when in reality, everybody can come up with a different jurisdiction that invalidates the other argument. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So it is
I-
a slippery slope to say, well, it's this thing versus this thing versus this thing, instead of saying a genetically unique human life that has never existed again, or never existed before and will never exist again, is formed from the moment of conception, which 96% of biologists who work at American academic institutions, higher education institutions, through a Princeton study, more than
University of
5,500
Chicago.
of them, and the University of Chicago, more than 5,500 of these biologists who work at 1,000 different academic institutions, 1,058 universities, 96% of them agree, even if they consider themselves to be pro-choice.
The overwhelming amount were pro-choice.
Yes, the overwhelming amount, 60, or no,
It was
80%.
Yeah.
85% of them call themselves pro-choice, 63% are non-religious, 89% are liberal. 96% of those people, of those 5,577 people, believe life begins at conception, period.
So do I.
So,
So
What
you
I'm
don't think that
asking
life has
you-
value?
What I'm asking you is how do you base a human life, not it's conceived, it's now growing, that human life, the metaphysical aspect of consciousness that we prescribe to people, to your dog, to unborn babies, to AI, to whatever. What is your framework for determining that? That's kind of the gist of my question.
AI is not a human being.
But we still give it an act of consciousness,
Wait,
we give it
but
names, we give it
It
attitudes.
to have an active
AI
consciousness.
is
Yeah,
not
we do.
a member
We
of
do.
our species. A fetus in the womb, a zygote in the womb, an embryo in the womb, that's a member of our species. The pro-life argument's entire argument is that it doesn't matter at the stage of development you are in, simply because you are a member of this species, you have the right, the very fundamental right to at least be born.
To exist.
That's it.
Okay.
That's the fundamental premise of the entire pro-life movement, because we have seen throughout human history, when you do not adhere to that present, a lot of bad things happen. We start saying that certain people can be 3/5 a person, or certain people don't deserve to live in communities by themselves anymore, but have to be shipped off to ghettos and concentration camps. When we start to be able to define what human beings are valuable versus, more valuable versus other human beings, bad, tragic things always happen, because we're fundamentally denying the order, the natural law order of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And when one's liberty trumps another human being's right to life, it always ends in disaster. And we could go back not too far in our own Supreme Court's history to prove that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
so
you.
much for being here. Hi.
Hiya, so I have a little bit of a silly question, but have y'all ever played the hit game Among Us?
Yes, I have played Among Us.
Oh, I love Among Us.
It's a great game.
That was my number one question.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, I know
Okay,
what it is.
yeah.
I have children.
Just double checking.
I highly recommend
That was the
this.
Gen Z asking the old Xennial whether she knew what the things were.
I think it's a very worthwhile game
It's a great
for
game, yeah.
everyone to play, especially at a party. Very fun. And then, oh my gosh.
What does your sign say? I'm trying to start.
Oh my gosh. I made it this morning. Oh my gosh, I love your Among Us phone case. It's very, very good. I have
the fetus. What?
to Yeetus the fetus or not to Yeetus is not the question the government should dictate, but the individual's choice.
Could you define Yeetus the fetus for us?
Oh my gosh, Yeetus the fetus is like one of my fave pro-choice memes. Basically, there was a Vine years ago, I think 2014, where there was someone who threw an empty soda can and went yeet. So then it just kind of became synonymous with the action of, I guess, first throwing things and then in a metaphorical sense of being liberated of something.
So you'd be comfortable yeeting a baby?
Oh, 100%.
A born baby?
Not like a born baby, because that'd make me a criminal.
But what's the difference? So your governor here, your pro-choice Republican governor, Kristan, we just defeated a proposal in the legislature. He wanted to legalize abortions up until the moment of birth. What is the fundamental difference 10 minutes before birth and 10 minutes after? Why would yeeting a child who's only been out of the vaginal canal for 10 minutes be different than aborting a child?
Because we
What?
care about humanity.
Why do I
Because we care about you and the next generation. And the 1/3 of our generation who never got an opportunity to be here. 1/3 because of the evils of the abortion industry.
Once you know evil is happening, I think it's pretty evil if you don't stand up to defeat it. And we know abortion is a discriminatory act of violence where the privileged person gets to say whether or not the weaker, younger person gets to survive depending on whatever they have going on in their life. And we think that is discrimination, it's violence, and it's wrong. And once you understand that, you're called to speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. It's a very fundamental principle. It's one of the best things about our country is that we stand up and speak for the most vulnerable in our world. Even if they don't live here in America, we're the most charitable country in the world, sending troops, sending foreign aid across the world.
But like, you know, what if I don't want to give birth, and shouldn't that be my choice to not?
Well, you
give
can
birth?
choose not to engage in heterosexual sex.
Both of my girlfriends are transgender. I am non-binary. I have a vagina, right?
Okay, so you can choose not to engage in sex with a penis and a vagina.
Yeah.
Without protection. But even with protection, because we know that that's not entirely foolproof.
I mean, yeah.
You don't have a
it's-
fundamental right to choose to engage in behaviors that we know in natural consequence is creating a unique co-living human life, and then take back that
But then
consent.
why would I not want to have sex? Like, that's kind of boring.
Yeah, I know. Sex is
Sucks.
awesome.
Sex
Did
is
you know
awesome. and I
married
think
pro-life
that-
religious people actually have the best sex lives?
She
I
just
married
Barney.
what?
Married pro-life religious people statistically have
Yeah.
the most satisfying sex lives.
My sex life is off the chart.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, mine is like off the chart. I literally have 2 girlfriends. If you want, I can tell you all about my fantasy dildo collection. I can tell you about
Don't really
my,
care.
I mean, if you're
So, wait,
bragging
I have a
about your
question.
I mean, you're not going to get
sex
pregnant with a dildo,
Yeah,
so
if
by
this
all
is a
means,
fantasy
partake.
and
life.
that's
You're bragging
satisfying
about
too.
your sex life.
I don't need to
Okay.
brag, but you say
She's
you
not
have a
married, she
fantasy
can't.
dildo
You know what?
collection.
You
So
know
if
what?
that's
You know what?
participating
You know
to a
what?
satisfying
You know
sex
what?
life,
Just let her see she barks again.
why not choose
I
to have
just-
sexual relations with the dildo and not create a human being?
Yeah. The pro-life movement does not have any
Silicone
stance
doesn't
against dildo
replace,
sex.
like human flesh. Okay.
No, it doesn't.
I know, that's why, you know, giving yourself freely to another
Y'all are
person
just
in a marital
talking in
act is awesome.
circles. It's like really
No, let's
infuriating.
okay, fine. Let's cut through the circle then. What
It's
are the
still gonna be a
consequences of
circle.
sex between a penis and a vagina? There are many, but what are just some?
You know what? I'm exhausted. Like, adios.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
for barking
being
at
here.
us.
Okay. So I just have I have 2 more questions, and then that's basically all the questions I have for tonight.
Okay.
My first question is, so I just Googled it because I'm not a doctor, and you also aren't doctors, but there's something called lethal fetal or anomalies in which babies are born like without skulls, or like the way in which they're going to be born would kill the mother. What other option is there besides abortion for a situation like
Yeah,
that?
and that's what we explained earlier. So you're talking about fetal anomaly, I can't even say it right now, and like anencephaly. I've actually met a child who was born with anencephaly, meaning half of his skull was missing, and he has survived for a number of years. He was one of the oldest children in the world born with anencephaly, Jackson, a beautiful human being. His mother was not at risk. So when you're delivering a child with anencephaly, your life is actually not at risk. But if you're talking about a case like
I'm talking about a case
high
where the
blood
baby
pressure,
will die and the
With
mother
baby
will die.
one. Yeah, okay.
yeah, so if you're talking about a case where the mother is going to die, that's not considered a direct abortion, because I explained before, you're not going to induce cardiac arrest, insert lumeria into her vagina to ripen her cervix, and then 2 days later deliver the child, because that type of abortion, the later in the pregnancy you commit abortion, the more risks, known risks there are for mothers. So what you would do is you would induce immediately, or you would have a cesarean section done immediately, and you would remove the child from the womb immediately. And you would hope, and depending on what hospital in America you're born into, this would change. You would hope that there would be a NICU there, and there would be medical neonatologists there who could give that child every best chance at life, understanding that there's probably a chance the child won't survive depending on how far along in pregnancy the child is, because most likely the child's lungs are going to be extremely underdeveloped, and that's why many children who are born premature die. But that's not a direct abortion. That's not going in and saying, oh, this woman is, has tested positive for cancer, she wants to start the cancer treatment drugs, or whatever story you want to use, and let's go and dismember the human being with a sofa clamp. There's no medical reasoning to do that. In fact, that actually puts her more at risk. If you're talking about a child who's been diagnosed in the womb with anencephaly, with Down syndrome,
Spina
cystic
bifida,
fibrosis, spina
heart
bifida,
defects, all
heart
kinds of
defects,
stuff, yeah.
you name the game, what would be the reason for going in and prematurely ending that person's life? Every single human is going to suffer. Every single person in this room is going to suffer in their lifetime. Suffering, sadly, is a part of the human condition, but that doesn't mean because we think someone's going to suffer, we're going to prematurely dismember them. That is a fundamental wrong thing to do.
In addition, there's an entire new field of surgery right now that is neonatal surgery, where OBGYNs are getting extra training to fix things like spine defects, spina bifida, holes in child's heart, while it is still in its mother's womb.
They will partially deliver
the womb,
and then put the child
pull
back
baby
into
out,
the womb.
still attached to the umbilical cord, fix the baby, which is insane that they have the tiny little tools to do that. Put the baby back in, sew the womb back up, and hopefully deliver the child full term. Wouldn't that be a much better time of our resources, investment of our money, opportunity for training our doctors to save as many lives as possible, which is what doctors take the Hippocratic Oath for. I didn't get my MD. I got my Bachelor's of Science in Biomedical Sciences, and then I studied the public health aspect of it at Georgetown down the road, who sadly thinks I'm too controversial to go speak there tomorrow night, so I had to go work that in there.
I got you covered.
As an alum there, that's what your tuition dollars will pay for. Wouldn't it be a much better use of our resources and time to save as many lives as possible from people swearing to never harm someone but do everything they can to save them, rather than prematurely decide that someone has a disability and therefore isn't worthy of life? Could you imagine if we treated toddlers, children, teenagers, adults with disabilities as less than? We do in society, and it's disgusting, and we have to stand up for it.
One more question, and then you can go because there's 3 other people behind you.
Okay. My last question is just, so I was looking up polls, right? It says here 67% of doctors support abortion access. So
Where's the poll from?
it's from sermo.com. Access to the medical community that empowers today's physicians. So my question is, if someone's job is to keep someone alive, why would they support something that's
Because if you're
supposedly murder?
pro-life and you go to medical school today in America, you are discriminated against. I can't
might
tell
even get
you
expelled.
how many former medical students or future medical students that we've worked with at Students for Life who've literally decided at the last moment, even though they got scholarships to medical school, not to enter medical school because they don't want to be forced to violate their conscience, their religious beliefs in order to practice medicine. So actually, sadly, in America today, doctors, physicians are going to become more left and more extremist than they've ever been in America today, because our president, Joe Biden, and his HHS secretary, who's a lawyer who likes to play a doctor on TV but is not, Javier Becerra, has openly said that physicians, pharmacists, and nurses do not have a right of conscience or religious beliefs in the workplace, which is fundamentally anti-American. Next
Kristen
question.
might get mad at me. I'm going to ask you a question really
sorry.
quick.
Go ahead.
Me?
If there was a law outlawing abortion, except for cases of rape, incest, fetal abnormality, and life of the mother, would you be in support of that? Just to play devil's advocate.
I would not be in support of that because I think it's a woman's right. It's
She's
a medical
already-
we
decision.
think it's really
Can I
unfortunate.
have a fall? I just want to say, you're not going to change my mind here, but
okay.
I just want to say, if your belief system regarding science is like attacked by like most scientists, that probably just means it's inaccurate. I'm gonna leave now.
No, as
Goodbye.
we actually said, 96% of biologists, even pro-choice biologists,
Believe
agree
that life begins
that
at
human life
conception.
begins at the moment of
But
conception.
this is what we're talking about, right? People love to use these arguments of rape, of incest, of fetal abnormalities, of life of the mother. In Florida, this week, a lot of people got really angry because the Florida State Legislature passed a bill that was signed by my new governor, Ron DeSantis, that says after 6 weeks of pregnancy, you cannot abort your child, except for cases of cases of rape, cases of incest, cases of fetal abnormality, and life of the mother. And everybody's still equally angry about this bill. So it just goes to show you, they're straw man arguments. They're not really actually interested in solving any of those cases. Yes, go on.
Hi, I'm not really against or like for you guys, so I'm like both pro-life and pro-choice kind
I'm
of.
glad you're
I'm
here.
like
Thank
We're here for you.
I just
so
want to hear your
ask your
guys'
question.
opinions. What do you guys think of the problem of overpopulation? Because you guys stated that about 1/3 of our generation wasn't here. Wouldn't that just decrease the quality of life for everybody that's here now?
Do you think we're overpopulated right now?
In some places, yes.
So interestingly, scientifically, the human race is actually underpopulated.
Shockingly.
All of the studies that are coming out today, Elon Musk talks about this quite frequently, and it's shocking because with the dawn of artificial intelligence, we're much more interested in coding conscience, to go back to our previous question, rather than creating human conscience, the American birth rate is so low right now that every single family would have to have at least 2.5, 3 children
2.1 technically
to replace our current population, and we're not keeping up with that. China is so desperate after their one-child policy to replace the population that they are begging people to have children, offering them literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to have children. Unfortunately, Japan and South Korea probably will erase themselves as complete societies because there's quite literally not enough children right now to theoretically even think about future generations down the line. So we keep hearing this argument about overpopulation, but the actual data and statistics and science to support that doesn't line up with the narrative about overpopulation.
Yeah, it's actually the greatest threat human civilization faces today is the fact that now almost a majority of young people, Gen Z, are saying that they just simply don't want to have children. And this is a trend that's continuing now throughout. It's been populated throughout Europe. It's now here in America, certainly in other Western countries. This is a significant concern because, like Isabel just said, Japan literally doesn't know what it's going to do because they literally can't care for all the elderly in their country, and they are a very closed society, and they have no idea how they're going to keep their civilization going with their tremendously low birth rate. So this is actually a huge problem.
All right,
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
So my next question is, what are you both doing to help with the large amount of people that are in the foster care system right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, that was going to be my last point, and I'll bring it up now. The pro-life movement does a lot. In fact, when you look at statistics about those who become foster parents or those who adopt, Christians by and far are the largest demographic of Americans who are looking to adopt, actively adopting, or actively becoming foster parents. And by and large, it's many pro-lifers are Christians. So that's a statistical point for you just right there. I actually think if you can go to standingwithyou.org, Students for Life's comprehensive resource database, you will see just how much the pro-life movement does. The fact that we operate more than 3,000 maternity homes and pregnancy centers across the country that vastly outnumber the fewer than 600 abortion facilities in our nation. We're actively promoting, our organization spending tens of thousands of dollars a month promoting nonviolent resources and support for pregnant and parenting individuals who make the courageous choice not to violently end the life of their child or the human being growing inside of her. So that's what we're doing. We at Students for Life Action, my 501c4 organization that I launched, we actually are actively working on, we actually introduced a piece of foster care reform legislation in the state of Virginia, and Democrats killed that bill. And the goal of that bill was simply to make it easier for administrators within the state, public service operators, so policemen, firemen, teachers, people that have already been entrusted with the care of minors in the state, to be able to do home study visits, with the goal of being we would speed up the home study process, because when you talk to future adoptive parents or foster parents, getting through the home study process is one of the most laborious things, and there's so few social workers. That bill was actually killed. So we've actually invested a significant amount of resources this year in working with pro-foster care, pro-adoption agencies, trying to create legislation that we can take state by state, primarily starting first in the red states, that we can take that will actually transform the experience for children and parents.
That's more on the organizational side. On the more personal side, I just moved to a new state. One of the first things on my to-do list is to be licensed as a CASA advocate. If you're familiar at all with CASA, they do advocacy work with foster children who are currently in the system. Both my parents are attorneys. I wanted to go to law school. Obviously, life got a little busy in the meantime, so this is one way that I feel like I can give back to people dealing with all of that while I don't have time to go to law school in the midst of my career. And from an activism point of view, we regularly call for the millions upon millions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money that is currently being used to fund the violence of abortion to be rerouted to fix the absolute atrocity that is our United States foster care system and make it
I wonder if
easier
this
to
many
adopt.
people would come out to protest or like attend the speech about foster care reform here at this
Or go
campus.
lobby on the Hill or do whatever, yeah.
I doubt it.
Do both of you support universal health care?
No, because universal health care is socialist health care, and as someone who has 3 children with medically complex diseases, I don't support socialist healthcare, because the question you need to ask yourself is, what type of healthcare? Do you want really shitty healthcare, or do you want good healthcare?
Do you
And I want the
understand
best healthcare
how
there is.
universal healthcare works? Because with
I
universal
do. I studied this
healthcare,
in grad school at
you
Georgetown,
still-
I
right
do.
down the road.
I worked at the Department of Health and Human Services. I know how it works.
you realize with universal healthcare, you still have the option of getting higher quality healthcare. It just makes it so many people have access to it. A lot of reasons why many people get abortions is because they don't have the financial situation to properly care for a child or to give that child
Yeah.
a good life.
That's why we
and
have
if we had
Medicaid.
universal healthcare, that would likely decrease the amount of abortions that
2
happen.
points there. Number one, with
Yeah, Medicaid.
healthcare, there are 3 pillars in any healthcare system that you need to weigh all at the same time, because we live in a world of scarcity. We don't have everything in abundance in a utopia where everything is just provided to us. The first is price, the second is access, and the third is time. You cannot have all 3. You have to sacrifice one. Many countries have decided to sacrifice price by providing universal health care, which therefore increases access but also time. In Canada, with our friends right to the north, there is an 18-month before COVID average waiting time to get surgery for an elective procedure of a hip replacement, which is ungodly painful. We have a friend who works in the content creation industry who just had a baby, and she had to wait 6 months to even see her OBGYN living in Canada. She just moved to the state of Tennessee so that she could get proper prenatal care to make sure that her child would be healthy and have a pediatrician when she was born. We do all kinds of work that unfortunately they will never let you hear about from inside the pro-life movement that does provide free health care to women who are in crisis situation and need help during their prenatal care. We walk through them, with them through their process of giving birth, and then even after that they've had that child. There are more than 3,000 pro-life pregnancy centers all around the country, also called federally qualified health centers, that provide financially assistive services or even free services to women and families who desperately need great prenatal care, but then also free babysitting and diaper drives and baby supply drives and all kinds of stuff beyond that. And I wish people could hear
We
about
have
that.
universal health care now with Obamacare, ACH, and abortion numbers have only continued to skyrocket.
We
So
don't
that's actually not
have
true.
universal
Oh,
healthcare.
so President Obama didn't give us, everyone in America, free health care? I thought he was giving us all health care that
He
we
did.
all
In
had
fact,
to
it's
have.
legally
I just had to fill it out my
mandated
tax
that
form
you sign
last
up
night.
for a health insurance plan, either through the government or through your employer.
Okay,
Or you
yes,
get
you have
fined.
to have health insurance, but that doesn't mean that you have accessible health insurance.
So if you, as any person, a homeless person who has absolutely no money, walk into an emergency room, can you be turned away?
No, but you still get a bill.
And oftentimes, it's those federally qualified health centers, those pro-life pregnancy centers, that help take care of the bill for people
Or the,
who desperately
the hospital's
need
own
that.
charity fund. Every poor person or a low income person in America can apply for Medicaid, which is like Medicare, but for people who can't afford health insurance. And that was before Obamacare and ACH. We need to move on to the next question. We're 40 minutes in. Sorry. Next
Does
question.
our healthcare system suck? Yes. We're trying to do a lot to help that, and that's why we're working so hard with these different federally qualified health centers to help different women and families. Thank you so much.
Hi there. I came in a little late, so I don't know if you already covered.
You're fine. Keep going.
It's all right.
I don't know if you talked about your stance on contraceptives. Did I miss that?
No, that was one of our
We didn't
lives.
even get
but
to our speech
We're
yet,
inviting
so.
questions first before we even give our speech, because we know that there's a lot of excitement about that. Do you have a specific question or just generally?
Yeah, I guess since I guess it applies to much of my age group here in college, a lot of us do use contraceptives, protection, and Plan B, abortion pills. You know, I'm just wondering how if you feel that's any different than performing a late term abortion. I just want to see
You said a couple of different classifications of things there. So you said contraceptives, you said Plan B, and you said abortion pills.
Yes.
Are you wanting to focus on one or the other, or just all of them umbrella and then parse out all the different things?
I guess the umbrella's fine. Sorry if I
that's
didn't
okay.
specify.
No, I think it's fundamentally the intent is different. So if someone's taking an artificial hormone contraceptive or using a barrier method contraceptive to prevent pregnancy from conception from occurring, from sperm and egg uniting, if someone's taking Plan B to prevent the egg from being released from the ovary, that's not taken with the intention to end a unique human life. Now we do know, because the back of the Plan B box even says this, that an early abortion can occur because if conception has already occurred. What artificial hormone contraceptives and Plan B will do is the third mechanism of that drug is to make the womb an inhospitable place, meaning the newly conceived embryo, the human being, cannot attach to the uterine lining, which would cause an early abortion. Like I said, though, that's not the intent, and it's not, majority of people in America women don't take that drug with the intent to cause an early abortion. They're trying to prevent conception from occurring. We've talked a lot about the effects of artificial hormone contraceptive and how it's really bad for women's bodies and how it literally transforms our brains, our sexual desires, our taste in music. And I would argue that if we did this to men would rise up and say, hell no. But for women, we've tolerated this for decades. 70 years in our country and said, sure, it's totally fine to change the way my brain functions and my decision-making abilities. I would argue that that's an anti-feminist argument, and that's wrong. But that's fundamentally different than taking than taking chemical abortion pills, also known as RU486. Chemical abortion pills are not taken with the intention to prevent conception from occurring. They are taken with the intention to end the life of a unique, whole, living human being. That is 100% an abortion. Does that help?
Yeah.
Were you thinking about like birth control pills? Was that really what you wanted to talk about?
No, it was just, I think, just like
generally,
just like everything, just like preventing I
will add
pregnancy.
hormonal birth control, which is what we would consider birth control pills, you're right, totally normal for our generation. I will be the first person to raise my hand and say I took hormonal birth control pills for 9 years of my life. I was prescribed them at 15 because of cripplingly embarrassingly acne, and I had to take Accutane twice. I was part of the very small percentage of people that had to take it 2 times. And at the time, it was so heavily regulated as a brand new drug that they had no idea what this was going to do to your body. So legally, they mandated that you have 2 forms of birth control while you take this pill, even if you're not sexually active. So that's how I was first prescribed hormonal birth control. My dermatologist told me over and over and over again, all the way through I was 24 years old, saying, hey, you're gonna break out again, you'll feel really miserable about yourself again, you'll be really embarrassed again and get adult acne, it's just not worth it. Just stay on the pill until you get married and you wanna have kids, eventually you're ready to get pregnant someday. I wish more than anything that I could have gone back and shaken the shoulders of that 15-year-old girl and not had to walk through the unbelievably difficult areas of anxiety, of depression, of suicidation, of being attracted to the wrong kind of man, because birth control pills make women more attracted to feminine men rather than masculine men. And I always wondered why my relationships weren't working out and I wasn't happy. It decreases your sexual desire. It makes you not want to listen to music. It changes what things smell like to you, how things taste to you, how you respond to stress. And we are just now, en masse in the scientific community, starting to research these psychological side effects of hormonal birth control. We've known that it causes cancer and strokes and blood clots, which is bad enough as it is, and I think we all just tune that out when our doctor says, here's this magic pill that's going to fix your acne and fix your heavy periods and fix your backaches and all of the migraines that you're dealing with, even though it causes all of those things, which is crazy. We like to tune that out, but we had no idea. We had no informed consent that we were going to deal with a whole host of other issues that completely changed who we are when we were regulating these pills, before we were even regulated them, but when we took them
And now
ourselves.
there's green sex alternatives like natural cycles that are actually regulated by the FDA. It's an app that's completely holistic, that doesn't put any artificial hormones in your body, and it is as effective, and studies have confirmed, as hormonal birth control. So there actually are viable alternatives now.
Check out the book, This Is Your Brain on Birth Control by Dr. Sarah Hill. She is an evolutionary psychologist, brilliant woman, but great book to check out.
Thank you for your question.
Can I ask one more tiny thing?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Just I guess this is kind of like the outlier, with contraceptives. What about a non-hormonal IUD, like a copper IUD?
Yeah. Copper IUDs are actually 100% abortifacient. So if you're using the newer IUDs, so remember IUDs, they were on the market. They were so bad because they were getting lodged in women's uteruses. They took them off the market. Not in China. They kept those going. But now they introduced hormonal IUDs. So the hormonal IUDs actually release an artificial hormone. The goal is trying to prevent the egg from being released from the ovary. If it is released, though, the IUD is spitting and does not allow the new human being to implant into the womb. A copper IUD is anti-spermicide, right? So it's supposed to kill sperm, but also it is abortifacient. It's not preventing the egg from being released at all from the ovary. It's actually spinning, and the goal is to keep spinning to disrupt the lining of the uterus so no embryo can implant. And no one tells you that.
But there are so many. We could have like a literal PhD dissertation conversation about all the types of hormonal and non-hormonal birth control. If you have another question, maybe after the event, you want to come snag us, please. Okay,
we don't want this to be taken as a condemnation of anyone who's using hormonal birth control, because that was the part of Isabel giving her story. I was prescribed birth control, as soon as I became pregnant, as soon as I became married at 20. And so I think this is something that everyone has had to face, every woman has to face. Any person with a vagina.
You're next. They're developing it for you too, right now.
Yes, good luck, man. Hope it doesn't change your brains like it has changed our brains. Good luck.
You wonder why your girlfriend's crazy. That's all I'm saying. Okay, please continue.
Hi, I hold a degree in reproductive health, and I just want you to back up some of the claims you've made. So first, can you back up the claim that millions of dollars go towards abortion federally?
Yeah, you can just check out our federal budget and look at the line item for Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, go to Planned Parenthood.
Abortion provider.
Are you aware of the Hyde Amendment and what that does?
Yeah, so the Hyde Amendment, thank you. The Hyde Amendment was passed in the late 1970s and says no federal dollars can pay for direct abortions unless in cases of rape, incest, or life of the mother. However, we actually posted a video today on Students for Life's Facebook, I believe, on fungibility. Because what fungibility does is it allows Planned Parenthood using Title X funding. So Planned Parenthood, according to their latest annual report, you can go to PlannedParenthood.org, go to annual reports, see how much money, it's about 38% of their income comes from us, federal taxpayers, about $600 million every single year. Because of fungibility, we actually pay for their building. We pay for their parking lot. In fact, you can go to the National. Nope. You can go to the National Abortion Federation's conference and other mom and pop abortionists who will actually publicly condemn Planned Parenthood, because Planned Parenthood is the Walmart of the abortion industry, and they offer subsidized abortion. So their abortions are actually cheaper than the mom and pop local abortion facilities, because the mom and pop don't get
federal funding of abortion. Explain that.
Well,
because
actually,
you're funding the largest abortion provider in America
for
to exist.
Contraception, STI testing,
and you're funding their building, you're funding their parking lot.
Again, not abortion.
They can charge.
Again, can you?
Actually, with Obamacare, though, now with Obamacare, they labeled HHS labeled pregnancy a preventable disease. I'm still really pissed off about that. And because of that, that actually forces every health insurance company in America to pay for potentially abortifacient contraceptives. So we actually are paying for abortifacient contraceptives. We actually are paying for those
abortions.
That's
not an abortion.
In Obamacare.
It quite literally is.
No, remember how I just described?
Do
you remember how I just described how copper IUD works and how the third mechanism of the Plan B?
After a fertilized egg has been formed.
Yes.
Preventing a human being, back up this claim.
Preventing a human being from implanting into the uterine lining is an abortion. That is an abortion. In 1965, ACOG, the American College of OBGYNs, changed the definition of pregnancy from conception to implantation. Why? Why would they do that, you ask? That doesn't make sense. Because of contraception, because of IVF. They had to change the actual definition of pregnancy in order to be able to say, contraceptive pills, IUDs, IVF don't kill human beings, when in fact they do kill human beings, and 96% of scientists, according to the University of Chicago study, proves that life begins at conception. But we just changed the definition to feel good about it.
I'm going to ask another question.
Okay, what's the purpose
Can you back up the claim that people suffer mental health consequences from having an abortion?
Absolutely.
95%
while you're
people.
pulling all of those up, please, I'd like to ask you, what is the purpose of Planned Parenthood as an entity? What was it formed to do?
To help people access birth control.
Wrong. Planned Parenthood was formed, was
literally not
established
wrong.
by Margaret Sanger as a
Yes,
means
the League
to,
of Birth Control.
All right, I got my facts.
means-
Here we go.
As a means to eradicate the less valuable people from society, to practice eugenics through abortion, to kill people that she deemed to be
They
less
were not
valuable to
providing
society.
All right, let me
largely
quote the
electrical
facts.
and
Control
civil
Alliance.
So if you go to PubMed.gov, this is the NIH, National Institutes of Health, online source where you can find any peer-reviewed medical journal article in the world. So PubMed.gov, I just went to it and I just typed in the word abortion. Here's what I found. Let's see, the first one is called The Association Between Abortion Experience and Postmenopausal Suicide Ideation and Mental Health. Results from the 5th Korean National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. Results. The risk of suicidal ideation was significantly higher in women who experienced more than 3 abortions. Here's another one. The Canadian Journal of Psychiatry. Results. After adjusting for socio-demographics, abortion was associated with increased likelihood of several mental disorders, mood disorders, anxiety disorders, substance abuse disorders, as well as suicidal ideation and suicide attempts. Our study confirms a strong association with abortion and mental disorders. New study. Let's see here. Elevated suicide rates amongst mothers after abortion. A 2019 study of the maternal suicide in Italy in the Archives of Women's Mental Health. The suicide rate of women who had abortions is more than double the suicide rate of women who gave birth. All right, Finnish study. This Finnish study indicates that the year following an abortion, the most deaths occurring in the first 2 months, women were 3 times more likely to commit suicide than the general population, nearly 6 times more likely to commit suicide than women who gave birth. Journal of Psychiatric Research. Conclusion, there was a positive association between induced abortion and several psychiatric disorders in Germany. Do you want me to keep going?
Do you notice
There's
how
my
none of
proof.
those are America? It's
Yeah,
because America
none of those are
does
America.
not have an abortion reporting law, which means they don't actually care about what happens
Yep.
to you after they've made money off of you to perform an abortion as a business, which we know is happening in the United States of America, and they don't care if you're dealing with depression or anxiety or an increased risk of suicide. 6 times higher in some countries than women who gave birth instead of seeking an abortion. So that's the answer to that question, but I want to return to this. If a company, if an entity, if an organization was founded with the purpose of killing human beings through abortion, is that their purpose as a company? Is that what they do?
It was the League of Birth Control, and I know all of the history of it,
So
it's
the
not actually
Nazis,
factual.
were established as a party and did all kinds of other stuff throughout human
All
history.
right,
They
the
made
way you
great
are putting it, I'm
vehicles,
gonna disengage.
They did tons of scientific research.
The
But
Nazis
are they
built
still
some great
worthy of
roads, but they were
defending?
still evil.
They built great roads, they had great Volkswagen cars that we still drive today, but they're still evil. To suggest that Planned Parenthood somehow is worthy of our taxpayer dollars and is worthy of a moral defense because they do other
This is
things
interesting.
beyond abortion.
New Hampshire is one of only 2 states in America that requires no reporting of any kind for abortion in the United States.
They
How can
don't
we actually
care.
have an educated argument about abortion and abortion harms when the abortion lobby at every turn stops any regulation reporting of abortions in our country? That is why the Norwegian countries, a country where abortion, quite frankly, is not controversial, are the best countries in the world to get statistics and data from, because they study abortion like they study any other medical procedure, and that's a damn shame. Next question.
Thank you to everyone who spoke in support of abortion today. So I have an autoimmune disease, and in order to stay alive, I have to take certain drugs and receive treatments. These drugs make it so I would not survive if I were to become pregnant. I did want to become a mother one day, I just can't. And as we know, rape is a very real danger. So what policies do you suggest for people like me who cannot have kids at the risk of their life ending besides practicing abstinence?
Are you talking about voluntary sex, or are you talking about rape? You're talking about voluntary sex?
I'm talking about abstinence isn't always a viable option for a lot of people, and there are people that experience sexual assault and become pregnant from it. So what do you do in the
but those are
situation
two
that the
different
mother would die from
conversations.
that?
So should we start with,
What would
I
you
consented to have sex?
Start with the sexual assault scenario in a trauma-informed way, please.
In a what way?
In a trauma-informed way.
I don't.
Earlier, I don't think you were here yet, we got a question just
Yeah, we
generally
had a
about abortion with cases of rape and incest, and we explained that our position is never to diminish the pain and the trauma that the victim of rape and incest have experienced in being on the receiving end of somebody else's evil, violent, criminal behavior, right? Mm-hmm. The answer to trauma is never more trauma at the end of the day. A woman or a child even who has experienced rape or incest is reeling with trauma, and the answer for her is not to pile on a higher likelihood of anxiety, of depression, of suicide, and dealing with guilt of ending an innocent human being's life that is receiving the death penalty for a crime that they had nothing to do with. They did not commit.
So not to stop you, I was here for that earlier, and I completely understand what you're saying. My question is more, what happens if the mother will die if they are carrying that child?
Yeah,
that they
I
did
think
not voluntarily
that's a
take?
question for, and I would consult with a pro-life OBGYN, first of all, to see what your unique circumstance is, and if you were to become pregnant as a result of sexual assault, which is pretty rare in the first place, but if that were, the terrible circumstance were to happen, there's usually a conversation between the patient who has the disease, cannot carry to term, and the doctor, and the goal is to help you sustain your life and to sustain the child's life for as long as possible until it becomes too risky for you to remain pregnant any longer, and then they would induce either have you naturally give birth, or they would operate and do a C-section on you. But the answer is not to take a pill to starve the human, or to use a D&E abortion and use Sofer clamps to dismember the human being, or to take digoxin and insert it into the human being's heart to cause cardiac arrest. Those in itself are violent procedures with the whole intention to destroy and end human life. The goal would be to see you and your child live. And if your health declines and you choose to say, hey, I cannot remain pregnant any longer, I can no longer gestate this new human being, the goal would then be to deliver the human being as quickly and swiftly as possible, but it would not be in the process of delivering that human being also dismembering that human being or inducing a cardiac arrest. And the good news is, with our health care and medical technology today, that's increasing every single day, we are soon going to have a world where artificial wombs will exist, where a child will be able to be removed, into the second trimester, not even in the third trimester of pregnancy. A child will be able to be removed from a woman's uterus in the second trimester and planted into an artificial womb to continue to grow until that child is old enough to be born and survive on its own.
Thank you for your time and misinformation.
Thank you for coming.
We appreciate you.
So I just have one quick question. Are either of you vegan or vegetarian?
No.
No.
Okay.
Proud meat eater.
So you
We get this
are
question
in
almost every
all
step.
lives. You're
So
just
some of our
pro-human
staff
lives.
members in the past at Students for Life in America have been vegan because they are atheists and they
Okay,
feel
but
that.
I'm asking about you two
Well, I'm
specifically
explaining
who
the
are
position
standing up here.
of some people who are atheists and also pro-life, who feel like if they are atheists, they do not believe we were created with
I'm not
any
asking
special
about
intention.
religion. My question has nothing to do
I know,
with
we're just
religion.
trying to explain why some pro-lifers would
We can
consider
eat meat
themselves
because
to
we
be vegan
believe in a
versus
creator.
us personally.
I can eat meat because I believe in a creator, and I know I was made in the image of that creator, and therefore the human species in the food chain rests upon other life. That doesn't mean we can treat other animal life neglectfully, or we can harm and be cruel to other animals.
Okay, but by
but
eating
our
meat,
lives
you're
are
killing
fundamentally
lives. How
more
is that
special.
different than, how is a live animal being killed for you to eat different than a clump of cells
Because
in
that
someone's
animal
uterus?
was actually created to sustain nutrition and sustain our bodies, and the animal was not created in our creator's image, but I was.
To play devil's advocate, I hear what you're saying, and this is actually a pretty common thing that I hear in the pro-life movement. One of our biggest misconceptions that we wanted to break down with you guys tonight, but I love that we're having so many questions, so we're just doing it in real time.
We're doing the speech
is
in real
that
time.
To be pro-life, you have to be religious. You don't. In fact, many people that are affiliated with this organization, with the pro-life movement at large, are not religious and do not have the same biblical worldview that myself and
My
Kristan have.
question has nothing to
explain.
do
I'm
with
just trying to
religion,
explain the
though.
answer to your question. We view consuming the meat of animals as protein and as sustenance and as food for us through the lens of the fact that we believe human beings were created with a separate purpose than the purpose that animals were created for. But there are tons of people who would consider themselves to be pro-life that believe it's all equal. There is no hierarchy. So there's an area where we might be able to have positive disagreement, but I would love to turn that back around on you and say, are you a vegan or a vegetarian?
I am vegetarian.
Then how are
and
you
I also
okay
support
with ending the life of a human being if you're not okay
Because
with ending the life of a
it's
cow?
a clump of cells. And I personally am vegetarian, but I understand that a lot of people don't have the resources or the access to be vegan or vegetarian.
that's an elitist
I'm not
position.
judging anyone who does eat meat. I'm saying it is a bit hypocritical that you two are standing up
No, it's
here
not.
preaching for being pro-life, but then you're
We're
okay with
pro-human
killing
life.
animals.
We disagree with
That
that,
is
but
my
I
point.
understand your perspective. I would really love to challenge you to look beyond the clump of cells argument. That is our first lie that we
Okay,
wanted to
but
break
you're
down
trying
tonight.
to.
That is the first lie that we wanted to break down tonight because truly we could walk through
It is
every
not a
single step,
sentient
every
human
single
being
day
at
of
the point in time
development
where
for
most
a child
people
throughout
get
all 9
abortions.
months of gestation, including the sentience that a baby experiences in the womb, like feeling pain, like feeling emotions, like developing a sense of taste, like freely moving their limbs around according to their brain, like giving stem cells back to their mom through the umbilical cord and through the placenta to heal their mom when they're sick. They choose to do that. So there's all kinds of sentience, not to mention physical evidence to support that this is not just a clump of cells, it is a recognizable
You both
baby.
are
Do you
trying
think
to
a
narrow
baby
this
calf has
down.
more value than a child in the womb?
Depends on what stage that fetus is at.
So when does the fetus have value?
If
The
it is
human fetus.
viable outside of the womb,
Okay, so that
But that
There-
changes. That
no
changes.
one, no one is saying that you should be able to get to 9 months
Yeah,
pregnant,
yes, your
have
governor
no
did.
issues,
Your governor just did. Did you
and
hear me?
just. I don't support our governor.
Well,
that's
your
fine.
governor and the
Some
Democrats
people are
in
saying.
Manchester literally argued that we should have abortion in New Hampshire up until the moment of birth.
Maryland, California, and even my home state of
So do
Colorado
you agree
are
with
even
me
saying
that that's
after
wrong?
a baby is born, you should still have the right
If-
to abort your baby. So
If the mother's life is at risk or the baby will not survive, then yes. If
Okay.
that is not the case, no, I don't agree with that.
Hypothetical
But
for
no
you.
one is going to carry a pregnancy all the way up to 9 months and then just have an abortion for fun.
a lot of people do.
That's,
Thousands
I'm
of
sorry,
people
but that's not what happens.
Well, it is, but I appreciate
No
that
one
you
would put
agree that's a
themselves
line in the
through
sand
the
that we
trauma
need to draw.
of
But
being
here's a
pregnant for
hypothetical
9
you.
months
Let's
and
talk
then
about
have an
this.
abortion just because they feel like it.
Let's talk about
People
this
don't-
artificial womb thing then, because you're saying that if the child can survive outside of its mother's womb, then all of a sudden it has viability, which is a definition that changes every single day. Like quite literally, the child gets younger and younger and younger with each passing day of increased medical innovation and technology. With this concept of growing children in an artificial facility outside of the womb of the mother, which theoretically, that definition of viability changes every single day, how are we ever going to land on what that determined date in your mind would be the definition of viability?
I don't have an answer to that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not the one doing the research.
If there was artificial womb technology announced tomorrow that said at 6 weeks when a child's heartbeat can be heard via ultrasound, that we can remove the child, the fetus, the embryo, the zygote, the clump of cells, whatever dehumanizing word you want to use, from the mother if she doesn't want to be pregnant and put that child in an artificial womb, would you then stand with me against abortion?
Not inherently.
Why not?
What would have to change?
I think that there's a lot of children, as I already was talking about earlier, that don't have homes and need homes, and I think especially with the way the
Why
direction
shouldn't we
the
kill
climate,
those children who need homes? What's wrong with killing children who are waiting for a loving family?
If they're going to experience
because they are
suffering,
sentient
are they disposable?
live humans. They're not fetuses in a womb.
See, that's
but
where we
going
fundamentally
back, all my
disagree.
original question was I just wanted to ask if you two ate meat because that technically is killing lives, and you
But
are
not
up
human
here
life.
saying,
Eating
yeah,
meat,
but it's lives.
eating meat is not killing human life. And if you remember,
So
at the
you only
beginning of my
care about human
presentation,
lives, you don't
where
care
I
about all lives.
where I laid out the pro-life position, we believe all human beings are equally valuable.
So
and we
you don't
know
care
that every
about
single act
human
of
lives,
abortion
you just
is a
care-
violent act against human life. Therefore, we're against abortion. So when we're talking about eating meat, and the hamburger I will join now because you're making me very hungry after this meal, I will do so with a clear conscience. I can do so not saying that cows don't have any value, bring any value. I mean, they do pollute our earth with all their gas. I mean, if you want to talk about saving
Not
the
as
earth,
much
we
as
need to
you
talk
think
about
they
the
do,
methane
though.
gas. But I'm just being serious. But I can eat meat with a clear conscience because I know that that animal is not a human being, and it was not created in in our maker's image.
But this is a great opportunity for us to say we are not here as spokespeople on behalf of the pro-life movement or even just human beings to say you have to agree with an entire checklist of every single thing that we believe in.
You can be atheist.
That's an authoritarian policy. We're simply
I never
here
brought
to
up
say
religion. I don't think religion needs to be a part of this conversation.
Okay,
You two are the ones bringing it into this.
all I'm trying to tell you is that you don't have to agree with every single thing that we're saying tonight. We're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to tell you that maybe you should learn how to think, which unfortunately is not a reality for so many people on your college campus. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you're engaging with us in
what
this
you're trying to do is
dialogue.
say that we're hypocrites because we eat meat. And what
Yeah,
I'm pointing
you
out to the
are.
point is we're not hypocrites
That is what
because
I'm saying.
our fundamental premise in the pro-life movement is that human life is valuable and distinct from other life in the animal kingdom.
So human life is more important than your dog's life?
Yes. And I love my dog.
Absolutely.
She has her own
I
Instagram
love my
account and
puppy
everything.
who won the county cutest
So
puppy
if someone
award.
wanted to eat your dog, you'd be okay with that?
I personally wouldn't love to eat a dog, but plenty of people in other parts
No,
of the world do.
Your dog, you'd be okay with that?
No.
No, I have my concealed carry permit. I would stop you from trying to eat my dog. My dog has value. I would not.
Lily, I don't
Okay,
need
so
to
I would
your
not
dog
allow
has
you
value to
to
you,
eat
but
my
other
dog,
animals
'cause
that might
that
have
dog
value
is
to
my
someone don't
property.
have
People
value
eat
to
bugs.
you.
I don't really want to eat them either, but I don't think a bug
But
has as
that's
much
a
value
difference,
as my
though.
dog.
That dog is my property, but human beings aren't property. Human beings aren't your property to do with what you see fit. Human beings
Okay,
are
so then
fundamentally
why do you
different.
get to decide what other people do with their bodies if it's not?
Because it's not
It's not
your
your
body.
property.
So when you're pregnant,
It is your
body
body.
is just saying another human body. So we're talking actually about two bodies when we're talking about pregnant women. There are two bodies that we need to discuss.
Well,
because
also it's not everyone that gets pregnant is women. Just to
yes, they are.
say.
You have to
Yes.
have a uterus and you need to have a vagina. Two
You
like,
are
fundamental things.
biologically female. That's not the same thing as being a woman, but I already know your views
You
on that.
have
so.
a uterus and you have XX chromosomes.
You are a woman.
You are a woman who has the capacity to
I
create
have a
life.
uterus. I have those chromosomes, and I'm not a woman.
You are a woman.
I'm not.
You
I'm
are.
biologically female, but I'm not a woman. Those are not.
Okay, how would you
not
not
the
I'm
same
sorry
thing.
you are
Out of curiosity.
confused, but you are a woman.
I'm
and
very
I'm
much
sorry
not
people aren't
confused.
telling you the truth. I think this is fundamentally a major problem in our society today, that we will not tell people that there's fundamental truth. There is fundamental truth. There is male and there is female and there has always been male.
I'm
female.
not
when you
debating
die and someone digs you up
biology.
in the earth, they will say, yep, that was a human female.
Yes, and that is biological sex. That is a completely different thing from gender. I am not saying that I am not biologically female. I know I am.
I'm glad.
I'm not debating that. I know that is a fact. But that does not mean that I am a woman. Those are two different things. And for some people, they are the same. For other people, they are not.
You are a woman. Only women can
I am
get
not a
pregnant.
woman.
And when you become pregnant, you are not,
I'm not
it's
planning
not
to become
simply just
pregnant.
your body. When I was pregnant with my sons, did I become a male? Did I become a biological male?
That's not how gender works, but okay.
No, it's
No. There was a penis developing in my womb. There were male
I'm sorry, but
There
your
were
point is
male
making no
chromosomes
sense.
floating in my uterus. Did I suddenly become a man?
No, because that's not how that works, and that's not what I'm saying.
Because I was gestating another unique human body. So that was your original premise of, well, it's my body, it's what happens in
Yes,
her
it
body.
is
What
my
I'm
body.
saying is, when we talk about abortion, and the sad thing about abortion in our society today, it has pitted mother against child, and it's pitted her rights against the child rights. And I think that's very sad. That's a very sad statement that we've gotten to in our country, where mothers feel like they get to choose and they're at war with their child that's growing inside of them. But the fundamental fact is, when you are pregnant, yes, you have bodily autonomy, but you can't use your body to harm other bodies. We have rules against that in the United States. There's laws that say you can't go to a pulmonary ward of a children's hospital and start smoking cigarettes. You can't do that. It's your body. You can do what the hell you want in terms of polluting your lungs on your own time. But when you polluting your lungs affects my children, we have the right to arrest you, because what you do with your body is harming someone else's body. And that's exactly what happens with abortion.
It's not what happens with abortion.
What happens with an abortion? Explain to me what happens with abortion.
At
So I'm
the
not
state
sure
where most people have abortions, that is not a grown human being yet. They are
So you're
not
discriminating
aware.
at a point of privilege against a weaker, smaller human being because you're saying, I, a privileged 20-some-year-old adult, have more value than you, the 6-week-old human being, boy or girl in my womb.
I think what you're saying, and I'm just trying to seek to understand here, is that most people have abortions through chemical abortions, through taking a pill, right? Not through going through a surgery when they're 9 months pregnant.
Most
It's
people
incredibly obvious
that
they're pregnant.
have most people that have abortions later in terms, it is not because they want to, it is because it is medically necessary and they do not have other options, and that is often very traumatizing.
Do you know that for a fact that
for them.
100% of women who seek to have abortions in the 9th month of pregnancy do so because of medical
I
necessity?
did not say 100%. I cannot
You told me
prove
earlier that I was
said
wrong,
a majority.
and you don't have any facts to back up your statement.
Well, interestingly, I'd love to focus on this first trimester chemical abortion thing, because I think what women are told, sadly, this is a huge topic of conversation in our country right now, this week, as this is being currently talked
Tomorrow
about
morning.
at the Supreme Court. So this is a really big deal, right? The Supreme Court is trying to decide whether or not the FDA did its due diligence in deciding if these pills were safe for us to even take, were safe for the environment. Spoiler, they're not. So we'll see how all of that goes with the actual court ruling. But women are told you're going to go home with this little paper bag, and we're going to sit here and watch you, force you to swallow this first pill while you're in our office to make sure that you do it. And then we're going to send you home with no physician supervision over anything that's happening, with little to no knowledge of what's about to happen to your body. It's just like taking a lot of Tylenol. It's just like taking a really strong ibuprofen, a pain reliever. You're going to be great. Everything's fine. Send you home, you take this pill, and ultimately women die all the time from taking this pill. They bleed out. They are told that they need to crawl into the bathtub or sit on the toilet and deliver their child, not a clump of cells, but a human being that can fit in the palm of their hand that looks like a human being, and the emotional trauma associated with that. Don't we deserve much, much better than that, knowing this is not a clump of cells like I've seen the white fuzzy stuff in the Petri dish on my Instagram feed. This is a human being, and there's a story that Kristan has in her research that I'd love for you to pull up from, I think it was the Washington Post that was reporting on this.
Not
that I
really
just
sure.
think we deserve to hear. And so let's listen to this, and then I would love to take your next
I
question.
want to just add on the fact that you just tried to tell me that I'm discriminating towards this theoretical clump of
Abortion
cells,
is
but
not
then you are
theoretical.
standing here discriminating against me.
Not discriminating.
Yeah, you are actively being transphobic towards me, and then trying to say that
you can use whatever
I'm the
pronouns
one.
you want. You can say whoever you are. I don't really care. But if you ask me, I'm going to tell you the truth. That's not being
That
transphobic.
is not the truth.
There's
It
no
is- that
threats
is
of violence
textbook
against your life.
definition
That's not
transphobia.
me saying that your life isn't as equally valuable as mine.
You are
That's
being
exactly what you are.
transphobic.
Fetus phobic, ma'am. You're fetus phobic.
That is
Ageism.
quite funny.
No, you're afraid of human fetuses, and you're prescribing a solution
Afraid?
to human fetuses that they must be destroyed because of somebody else's sense of inconvenience towards them. Is that right? That's fetus phobic.
Yeah, I'm not
Kristan,
doing
I'd
this
love to hear
anymore.
that.
Yeah, let me read the Washington Post. So
I'm not that
Washington
interested in
Post,
standing up here
not a
and
pro-life
having
source.
you discriminate against me because I'm not
I
doing
didn't
that.
discriminate against you. I'm sorry you feel that way, but we're telling you the
Talk
truth.
to us in whatever way you want. Call us whatever name you want, to use whatever words you want, to identify as whatever you want. We're here for a conversation and a dialogue.
Yep.
That's what this is all about.
All right, this is from the Washington Post on October 18th. This is after she took the second abortion pill from chemical abortion, which she obtained illegally from a Mexican abortion cartel. Monica's cramps didn't start until she took the second set of pills on a Sunday morning. She said she lay down in bed as soon as she felt the first one coming on, wearing her favorite oversized t-shirt and a diaper pad. This was her first pregnancy, but Monica imagined this was what contractions might feel like: an intense pain, a few minutes out of relief, then more pain, each wave of cramping a little worse than the one before. Balled up in the fetal position, she called a friend who had had a medication abortion a few years ago at Planned Parenthood with a doctor beside her. Quote, "Dude, I don't know if this is normal," end quote, her friend said when Monica described her pain. Quote, "Maybe you should go to the hospital," end quote. But Monica couldn't go to the hospital. Surely, she thought, the doctors would know what she had done and report her, because she lives in a state where abortion is illegal and she obtained these pills illegally through a Mexican midwife who doesn't speak English. Her boyfriend threw some clothes in the bag anyway to get ready. Quote, "Turn on the bath," Monica said. She yelled out to him. Quote, "I need to get in there." She then felt a flood of liquid in her underwear and stepped into the bath with the clothes still on. Lying back in the tub, she said she felt some pressure release. Then she screamed. This is the Washington Post. not a pro-life source. The fetus was floating in the water, slightly smaller than the palm. The fetus had a head, hands, and legs, she said, defined fingers and toes. She leapt from the bath and collapsed in her boyfriend's arms. Desperate for some guidance, soaking wet, crying, she took out her phone, quote, "I just passed the fetus," end quote. And do you know what the abortion lobby has said for 23 years since the FDA approved these harmful drugs to women, what to do after the fetus has passed in the bathtub or the toilet? They've told her to flush the toilet, flush the child down the drain. Despite the fact that chemical abortion pills, mifepristone, the first pill in the cocktail, remains 3 active metabolites after the metabolites have passed through the mother's body and have come out via blood, placental tissue, and fetal tissue. There are 3 endocrine disruptor metabolites that remain active and are flushed into our open waterways. We have an emergency in our country with the fact that we don't have clean water. Tomorrow morning, Students for Life America will be petitioning the FDA because according to the Endangered Species Act, Section 7A, the FDA in 2000, when they approved mifepristone, did 0 investigative studies about how chemically tainted blood, tissue, and fetal remains affect our aquatic, farm, and human reproductive endocrine systems, which we know is a major issue. Your question?
Hi there.
Hi.
So I showed up a little late to this whole debate, so is there any chance I could get to know both of your names? My name is Carson, by the way.
Hi, Carson. I'm Isabel. This is Kristan. We're really glad that all of you guys are here, and I know there's kind of been some in and out. So if you didn't get a chance to hear us introduce ourselves, we're super glad to meet you.
Okay, apologies. I just feel like that's the right way
No
to
worries.
start this. And I hope not to take up too much of your time. But I just had a really quick question, which I was curious about, because I'm sure you guys have been bombarded all today with statistics and like nonstop. So I had a quick question about what are your kind of personal beliefs in the sense that why do you think there are so many people that are outside today trying to work against you guys or that are protesting against everything that's happening in here?
Yeah, I think it's very easy, Carson. I think that when we talk about abortion and the quote-unquote right to have abortion, we are talking about decisions that young people are actively making. And reconsidering your view on abortion is very hard, especially if you're a heterosexual who likes to have sex, which most of us like to do. Reconsidering your position on abortion might mean that you may have to reconsider some of the sexual health decisions that you are making in your personal lives. Sadly, many of the people who are out there screaming right now have grown up in a nation that has told women that we are equal and we are women, we can hear us roar. However, if we get pregnant, we have to have an abortion because we can't stay in school and remain pregnant. We can't achieve the career of our dreams. So what that is out there, a lot of that is fear of the unknown. Some of it is hurt from women who've been lied to and had abortions. Some of the angriest people and the most unstable people and the most threatening people I've ever come into contact with on college campuses and in the general community, sadly, are women and men who've actually been party to abortion, who struggle with the hurt and the pain of making that abortion decision. And hearing somebody come onto campus and say that abortion is a moral wrong hurts them because they haven't healed from their own abortion. Therefore, they have to be vocal in shutting down any opposition.
Right before the event started, you didn't get a chance to see this, we actually went out and we invited all of those people to come in and ask us questions. We haven't even given our speech tonight because we've been taking questions from anybody who wants to talk to us.
I got a condensed version.
We'll do it at the very end for a really quick speed round. It'll be fun, like crash course history videos. But I think generally speaking, this even transcends the issue of abortion. And I do a lot of work as just a Gen Z content creator. I host a nightly live stream. I go on the news a lot to talk about our generation and all the things that we're doing politically, and it's a very fun time. But I don't just talk about this issue. This is one of my most important issues that I talk about, so I spend a lot of time on it. But we live in a society that is a post-truth society. If you think about every single pillar of American culture today, entertainment, education, obviously, as we're on a very prestigious, very well-funded public campus that is supposed to be training you in science, arts, and industry, according to its founding from 1866, but doesn't seem very interested in talking about science or any of those conversations that we're having tonight. When you think about government, when you think about your phone and social media, when you think about corporate news, every single pillar of our society has been manipulated to feed you a narrative and not objective truth. In fact, we even say my truth is different from your truth. My sense of morality is different from your sense of morality. So it's fine and dandy and great to live in a social justice activism society, but as soon as you say, objectively speaking, there is an entire group of people that's being systematically discriminated against because of a defining characteristic, the fact that they are not born yet, the fact that they need another person to be born, the fact that they are in the womb. All of a sudden heads explode and the ability to have a simple conversation completely disintegrates because we've rid our society of the concept of objective truth entirely. The really sad reality is we're not here to tell you what to think. We're not here to say you must agree with us or else. The other side does that. The other side will excommunicate you from every pillar of society if you dare to even question
the Yik Yaks
the
were
narrative.
real welcoming of us on campus.
Yeah, our Yik Yaks both got deleted, which I didn't realize could happen.
Which was interesting because I just welcome people to come in.
Like, please come in. We're here
And
to
I
answer
acknowledge,
questions.
because they said that none of us who are pro-life have sex. I dare pro-lifers have sex, so I just acknowledge that I have 4 children. That's not a problem.
sex
And my
life.
Yik Yak got taken down. Like,
Yes,
what the
yes.
heck?
But it's incredibly sad because this conversation that we're having right now is what academia is supposed to be about. We are supposed to regularly be challenging our perspectives, be encountering different opinions, be asked to explain what our values are and play devil's advocate and try to explain the other side of those values. That's what we are supposed to do to receive a well-rounded education to be successful adults in society. When you see every single college campus in America behaving that way, do you really think that we are set out to be a strategic and successful society after graduation day? The answer is no. I graduated in 2019, I graduated from grad school in 2020, and things have only dramatically gotten worse from there. Amazingly, this has been one of the more peaceful events that we've had on college campuses this semester, and we're headed to California next week, so please pray for us. But we're really excited to be facilitating this dialogue, and it doesn't end here. It continues with you guys, and we just ask all of you guys, no matter what your position is when you walk away tonight, pick up that torch of dialogue. Ask your friends, hey, what do you think about this? Ask your professor, I know you said this in class the other day, is it possible that might not be true? Facilitate that conversation, because enough of your professors sure as hell are not.
Yeah.
Awesome. I had one more quick thing which I just wanted to talk about. Is there a chance, though, that some of those people out there are perfectly good people that may have been wronged by people that were part of your movement, right? Or that agree with some of your philosophies?
We said that right at the get-go. We're not here to condemn anybody. We genuinely believe most of the people standing out there have been lied to and systemically manipulated for the last several decades of their life. From the time they took sex ed, which was formed by Planned Parenthood, all the way to now when they are standing on this college campus unable to have a dialogue. We want to break that trauma and that cycle of manipulation and just get people to think about it for 1 second.
Okay, awesome. I really appreciate this because I will say, personally, I disagree with almost everything you say, but I appreciate the way that you guys have phrased it. You've been very respectful to me and my time, so thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right, we got our last 2 questions.
Yeah, last 2 questions, and then I have a fun, we're going to 60 seconds
We're
for a
going
speech.
to speed round our speech.
Ooh,
It'll be
start thinking of them
fascinating.
clips
We've
now.
never done that before.
Yes.
I can actually, hi again. I can actually save mine for after if you guys just want to get to your speech.
No, it's okay. We want to hear it. Go ahead.
Okay.
You've been waiting in line patiently.
Yeah. One, we can agree on the Accutane twice. I was on that too.
Yeah, nice. There was only like 25% of us that had to do that. It was horrible.
Yeah, it's not fun. And 2, I study fiscal responsibility. I agree that our healthcare sucks. However, moving forward with like banning abortion can lead to a lot of very problematic issues. Is there any policies you guys are pushing for that doesn't just tackle therapy? I heard that, which is awesome, and like foster care responsibility, but maybe like income for people on maternity care or like
Paid family leave, baby. I think we're the only national pro-life organization that's officially hosted a whole lobby day on paid family leave. That's something that we are very excited about in the pro-life generation. I think that you know, we've had, this generation is a little bit different than I think older pro-life generations who have always been focused just on getting Roe reversed, where we've now been like, wait a minute, Roe's gonna be reversed, it's gonna be reversed, what do we need to do? And so especially our young people that we work with at Students for Life are constantly asking themselves these questions of what comes next after Roe's reversed, after my state makes abortion illegal. And paid family leave is one of the things that we care, I would say uniformly this generation cares about. I think there's a left and right way to do it. You know, I've told members of Congress I endorse the Republican way of doing it, which is borrowing from your Social Security, basically taking advance from your own Social Security.
We're not going to get it anyway.
But
so
honestly,
let's just face it.
I just don't really care. Like if I had to pay if I had to pay a tax on my income tax went up in order to make sure that there were no abortions in America and every woman would feel that she has every financial need met, I would gladly do it. And this is someone who just paid $5,000 to FJB last night. So I'm pretty mad about that. But I would gladly do it. The challenge is it hasn't been proven to me that raising the income tax or giving out all of these free financial programs are actually going to reduce abortion rates, because you can look at some of the bluest states in our country, Colorado, New York, Illinois. They have these are states that give birth control, condoms out like candy. They have relationship with Planned Parenthood, where Planned Parenthood will literally come to the school, take the student out of class without telling their parent, get them an abortion, get them hormonal birth control that can change their brains, send them back to school, and their parents have no idea, and parents don't have any right. I mean, it's crazy town in these states, yet they have the highest abortion rates in our country. And so I think, I welcome any academic studies to be out there of like, if we can do this, it's going to lower abortion rates. It's going to help pregnant and parenting mothers and families. I would totally welcome that conversation. I think anybody within the pro-life generation and any pro-lifer in general would welcome that.
That's just one example. I mean, we could talk all night long about those pro-life pregnancy centers, the federally qualified health centers. That new bill that just got signed by Governor DeSantis this week also allocates, I think, $25 million a
no one's
year
talking about that.
in funding to federally qualified health centers to make these services cheaper or even free to those who cannot afford them. So there are a million different solutions that we can talk about to make this easier financially on families, and we love to have those conversations. Unfortunately, most of the people who will stand here and argue with us or yell at us online or yell at us on CNN and Fox News about, hey, all you care about is the baby being born, and they're not actually interested in even finding those solutions because they're not interested in ending the industry of abortion. We are thinking beyond, okay, Roe v. Wade has been reversed. We are thinking about a post-abortion America. What does that look like? Of course, that's beyond the birth of the child, and we have all kinds of stuff that we need to work on to get to where we want to be culturally.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Nice to meet you. Glad you're here.
Excuse my voice.
Sorry, it's very loud.
First, I wanted to say I really appreciate how informed you guys are on this topic, and because I feel like many discussions, they come on from like baseless sources and based on what you grew up with, and that's the main reason why people butt heads so much on this topic. And I actually looked at your website earlier today, and it was like how you said that ectopic pregnancies and miscarriages are not the same as abortions, and I think that's obviously a very valid point to make, because many people think that like, oh, if someone gets a miscarriage, then
that's
I'm
very
going to go to prison. They think that.
That's
they
extremely
think, like,
harmful to millions of women in America who've endured a painful natural miscarriage, to then try to go back and to gaslight them and to say, oh, you've had an abortion, you should stand with us. That is sickening, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And I just had a question. So I'm trying to spend like the next 7 to 8 years of my life in schooling. I'm trying to be a doctor. I'm just trying to do all this schooling. And for me, like having a baby, like even I have an accidental pregnancy, like that like scares me. Like I'm right now I'm horrified of being pregnant, but like I do plan on having kids down the road. So like for me, like I cannot take the physical or mental stress of having a baby. Like say like in the next like 6 months or even the next like 7 years. Like would you like consider, like say I have an accidental pregnancy, would you consider that like just irresponsibility from like not being able to like get the right amount of not contraception, like birth control? Say like my birth control has like a 98% success rate and I'm in that 2% where I have a pregnancy. Like would you consider like, hey, like you need to put your college education over the priority of the fetus that will turn into a baby?
Are you wanting to pursue your MD?
No, I'm trying to be a veterinarian, so DVM.
Very cool. That was my dream when I was in like elementary school, and then I decided not to do that. And obviously, God has put me on a very different path, but very, very cool. I went to Colorado State. We had one of the best vet schools in the country, and all the programs, and did a lot of work with their school. So congratulations, and best of luck to you in that endeavor. I think genuinely, I would encourage you to approach this conversation and approach this way of thinking from a different lens and a different perspective. We have created a culture in society that tells women you will be unable to be successful Period, end of story. In school, in your job, in starting a business, in anything that you want to do, in traveling the world, and in doing whatever, and being pregnant and or having a child during that time. I personally knew several people, 3 or 4, that had babies during veterinary school and then right after they graduated from vet school in their very early years of residency, and they graduated right on time. Their professors worked very, very well with them to make sure that they could handle all of the scheduling. They held their babies in class while they were teaching so that those people could take notes. And I think it's really sad, and we've done a disservice to the women of our generation by lying to us, and a whole generation of us, and saying, you have to prioritize this or this, and there is no such thing as those two things living together in mutual beneficial harmony, right? In reality, you can go to veterinary school and be pregnant and have a baby. People do it literally every day. You could go to medical school and be pregnant and have a baby. You could be a doctor, you could be a CEO. My mom traveled my entire childhood for her job. We dropped her off at the airport on Sunday, picked her up on Thursday. Was that always easy? No, but I saw in real time what that looked like as a mom of 3 little girls, to have it all, to have a full-time job, to have a family, and I will not regret that for a single day of my life. So I hate that we're diminishing the capacity of a woman to succeed, which is an incredibly anti-feminist perspective and lens through which to view the world, by saying, you don't really want a kid anyway. They're just going to be a burden on your life. They're going to hold back your education. They're going to hold back your career. They're going to hold back that business that you're trying to start. But I would really encourage you to look at it through the lens of, what if that is the extra push and the extra motivation to be even more successful in veterinary school, or to be an even more successful vet, or to own my own practice someday so that I can help provide for my child and give them an example of what a strong woman actually looks like.
Yeah. Bottom line, we think you are strong enough to choose both. And we think women are, I think it's a very regressive view that the abortion industry continues to propagate upon women, that we have to choose ourselves or our child. And I think in 2023 America, we deserve to have a progressive conversation about how we can choose both. There is no reason to have to feel in 2023 America. I mean, one of the things I've been very impressed about this campus, the first thing I saw on campus when I walked in was the lactation room. I heard this, it's a closet, it's not big enough. But there's a lactation room. That's awesome. Do you know how many public universities still don't have lactation rooms, even though it's law? I mean, it's unbelievable. Our entire Standing With You team, I had to go get somebody certified in Title IX law so we can send the legal demand letters to universities every time our Students for Life groups on hundreds of campuses across America find that their schools aren't even standing, with Title IX and protecting women and saying, hey, women should have a place here too. So I think you're capable enough and strong enough to do it.
I appreciate that point of view. But also, one of the things I'd be concerned about was just the funding of supporting a baby and going through school, and then going through veterinary school, and then having hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt on my back while having to take care of a baby. There's like thousands of dollars that you'd have to put into taking care of a baby. And I feel like that's honestly just
to be honest with you, I think you're going to go in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt with or without the baby. Yeah. And many universities already do have reduced housing and daycare for pregnant and parenting students. And I would encourage you, if you would become pregnant, to look into attending one of those schools. And maybe you would have to make a decision of go to this school or this school, and you might have to look at what school has more of a progressive view about supporting mothers in the classrooms. And you may have to make that different decision, but I definitely think where there's a will and a way and you're able to do it. And by the way, if you get discriminated against, you can call us. We will stand up for your right to be a successful student and be a mother.
And while we're at it, let's try to make it a little more financially accessible to become a veterinarian or a doctor. My sister starts her MD program in July, and she's having to weigh between $300,000, $400,000 in debt or $500,000 in debt, and it's disgusting and not okay. But the system that we've built, where all of these universities can continue raising their prices, and then the federal government bails them out, and then lies to you and says that you're going to have to deal with all that, but not really. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of all your student loans, and then not do that 6 months later is ridiculous. So that's a much easier way to fix that problem than saying that a human being shouldn't exist, right?
Thank you so much for
your guys for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right, Isabel, we're pivoting.
Speed round.
So we have 10 lies that pro-choicers most commonly believe.
Yes.
We pretty much have gone through the whole speech. So we're going to read each other the lie,
Yes.
and then you're going to give 60 seconds. And dang it, I'm going to time you, woman.
Oh no, I'm a talker.
I'm going to time
This is not
you.
good. This is why I just hit live every night.
I
and
know,
just
this
talk
is why
until
you do
I'm done
lives.
talking.
I got my timer. You have 60
Okay,
seconds.
lie number 1, babies are just clumps of cells. I usually spend like 30 minutes on this, but we're just gonna focus specifically on the first trimester. As you know, I'm gonna reiterate that study from the University of Chicago. It was republished by Princeton. 96% of about 5,500 biologists at over 1,000 universities agree, even though they are overwhelmingly liberal, hold a PhD, non-religious, and would consider themselves to be pro-choice, that life begins at conception, a unique human life. From the 3rd to the 8th week of pregnancy, it is not just a clump of cells like you might see on your Instagram. Structures and organs that later become your brain and spinal cord, the neural tube, the head, eyes, mouth, and limbs start to form. The heart begins to pulse. Buds that become your arms and legs ultimately form by the 6th week. By the 8th week, your organs and your systems are there. And babies throughout pregnancy do have their own sentience. They feel pain. They feel the emotions of their mother. They contribute back to their mother in their immune system and actually have their own sense of taste as well.
Damn, that was good. Okay.
Boom.
Bam. All right. Second lie. Chemical abortion is a safe and efficient way to end the life of the child in the womb. Chemical abortions are 4 times more dangerous than a traditional surgical abortion. They are 10 times more deadly than a traditional surgical abortion. One study in California using California Medicaid data, remember that insurance for poor people, found that chemical abortion pills increased ER-related abortion visits by 500%. Just last week, the 5th Circuit of Appeals ruled that the FDA, using the FDA's own language and the FDA's own patient advisory form that they wrote and approved themselves in 2000, they wrote, the FDA, that 2 to 7% of women who undergo a chemical abortion will face an emergency incomplete abortion and will have to seek emergency care to prevent sepsis infection that could kill her. With 5 million chemical abortions in America since 2000, that's between 100 and 360,000 women. So it's a problem.
I'm stealing your last 3 seconds, and we're polluting the environment with the abortion pill, which we didn't really get to talk too much about tonight.
This is chemicalabortion.com.
If you consider yourself to be an environmentalist, the abortion pill is the worst
Third
thing
lie.
possible. Okay, third lie. Miscarriages and ectopic pregnancy treatment is abortion. You guys heard us talk a lot about that tonight. That is not true, and it really centers around the fundamental difference between the removal of an already dead child, a child that has unfortunately passed away from the womb, and the intentional killing of an alive human child out of choice, usually out of convenience that you no longer want to carry that pregnancy. We hear the lie all the time that women who have a miscarriage, which now they're starting to say is almost 1 in 4 pregnancies, so this is incredibly widespread, very normal for women to deal with miscarriage, and that's very sad. A larger commentary on infertility rates in our country are going to go to prison. That is not true. States with abortion ban laws like Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Florida that we just talked about today specifically define under law that treatment for a miscarriage and ectopic pregnancy is fundamentally different than an elective abortion.
Done.
Oh.
I'm
going to beat
down.
your expectations of me.
Third lie, hormonal birth control prevents abortion. That's not true. Just look what I said earlier at all the blue states in our country that give out hormonal birth control for free to anyone. They also have the highest abortion rates in America. You can also look at the Alan Guttmacher Association, the statistics organization founded by Planned Parenthood's second president, Alan Guttmacher, who's also the vice president of the American Eugenics Association. Guttmacher says that contraceptive use has been rising since the 1970s. An increase in contraceptive use during the 70s did not reduce the incidence of abortion. Their 2003 Guttmacher study showed that contraceptive use and abortion rates rose simultaneously in every control. In the UK, the largest abortion vendor there, BPAS, their executive director said to their national media, quote, "Our data shows women cannot control their fertility through contraception alone. Even when they're using some of the most effective methods, family planning is contraception abortion. Abortion is birth control that women need when the regular method lets them down."
In other words, birth control doesn't stop abortion, it actually fuels it, and don't take it, it destroys
makes people
your brain. It's not
actually
good. It
have
makes you
sex
crazy.
more with people who they may not want to actually have a child.
Okay, our next lie I'm not going to say up front. First, I'm even going to say, are we playing Jurassic Park out here now? That's incredibly ironic because what a dinosaur way of looking at human rights. So that's just very strange to me. But the fact that I even have to stand up here and ask you this question blows my mind. What organ do you need to have as a human being as a precursor to grow another human being and create a human life? A uterus. I love how everybody's just like.
Everyone is so shy to ever answer that
Nobody
question.
wants to say it out loud. A uterus. Yes, that is a womb. That is what grows a child. Who has a uterus? Women. Thank you. This is a college campus of higher
Superheroes.
education. Not people who menstruate, not birthing people, not people who bleed, not chest feeders, which is what the government is calling us now. You laugh, but I'm dead serious. The federal government is calling us that. Women. Our society is degrading womanhood and boiling womanhood down to something so simple as birthing people, which frankly I find unbelievably offensive and just about the least feminist thing that you could possibly say, especially if you call yourself a feminist. The gift that you have as a woman to create life is the most badass, punk rock, incredible thing that you could possibly do.
All right, you're off.
I have no idea, and I'm over time, but I have no idea why our society is so comfortable letting the capacities of women that belong to us, that are beautiful, that should be celebrated and protected, suddenly belong to people who bleed or men with penises. I hear stories every day on my social media of women who walk into their OBGYN, and there are several men sitting there seeking treatment for abortion or pregnancy who have a penis, and these poor doctors have to figure out how the hell to communicate with these people. Planned Parenthood is lying to you when they say that anybody can have a child, women can get pregnant, and they're actually interested in destroying gender even further by becoming one of the largest distributors of hormone treatment for teenagers today, often without consent and most often without a signed letter from a therapist even giving you a diagnosis of gender dysphoria.
Which
so
actually
they're hell bent on
completes,
destroying gender too.
that actually completes their founder Margaret Sanger's original intention, which was sterilization of those she deemed unfit. So transgender wrong-sex hormone therapy actually completes their mission, their founding mission, better than abortion. Next one, women need abortion to succeed? As you just saw at the last question, absolutely not. That is a regressive, antiquated, anti-feminist view to believe that I need access to a special surgery in order to make my body like the normative male body in order to be equal to men in our society. I know women do not need that to be equal to men in our society. I was valedictorian, I was high school, whatever the valedictorian of college is. I run a $20 million a year organization. I, can be any man on any SAT score probably out there in that audience. Maybe not in here, but definitely out there. I definitely know that I am not less than to men simply because I have a womb and a vagina. Women do not need abortion to succeed, and that is an anti-feminist. You need to stop allowing these anti-feminist statements out there. It's a completely disempowering statement to tell our women and our young girls in our society that they have to have access to a surgery that ends the life of other young women in order to succeed. There is something better and something more we can do.
Particularly from all of these large woke corporations who are really just abdicating from their responsibility to take care of the women who work for them, because it's a whole lot cheaper to pay for a trip to a luxury 5-star resort for one night for you to get an abortion out of state than to pay for your maternity leave and paid family leave after your child is born. Ridiculous that we still fall for this lie. Next lie, my body, my choice. We talked about it all night tonight. It is quite literally not your body. This is a genetically unique human being with their own sentience, their own sense of pain, their own sense of emotions, their own DNA. They actually end up donating some of their stem cells back through the umbilical cord and the placenta to their mom to actually help their mom and strengthen her immune system, which is crazy. So this is a symbiotic relationship. We're often told this is like a parasite when we go speak on college campuses. It is not. This is a unique human being, and I think especially as we venture into the very odd dystopian world of artificial wombs, which we kind of touched on tonight, we didn't get a lot of chance to go into. Please go research this for yourself. This is an interesting way to change people's minds that I really never thought about until some of these questions tonight. If a child can grow outside of the womb of the mother, clearly it is not your body.
Yeah, duh. But, some people don't get that. Okay, oh man, I messed up my timer. How am I going to time myself now? Oh, I'm just going to have to guess. Okay, I don't know where we're at. Planned Parenthood cares about women. Planned Parenthood does not care about women. We know this every time we look at their annual reports. from Planned Parenthood. Every time they release an annual report, it is very clear in the past 22 years, their number of abortions continue to skyrocket. Their quote-unquote good services, every year when you look at their report, continues to decline. According to their September 2022 released annual report, they committed 883,000 abortions. That's 1,050 children lost every day, more than 360 black children specifically. 37% of their income comes from the government grants and reimbursements section. Planned Parenthood, if you look at that same time frame of abortion, their increase, they saw an 8.5 increase from last annual report to this annual report. At the same time frame, cancer screenings fell by 30%, well women tests fell by 39%, STD tests fell by 17.4%, pregnancy tests fell by over 14%. In the past 20 years, the number of abortions committed at Planned Parenthood affiliates increased an astounding 80%. During the same period, prenatal services offered by Planned Parenthood declined by more than 43%. You don't have to believe me at all. You can call Planned Parenthood across America in any city today. Ask them if they provide diapers. Ask them if they provide training for new mothers and new fathers. Ask them if they provide prenatal services. Ask them if they do adoption referrals. They don't do these things, or mammograms. They don't do them. Next.
The last lie I have the privilege of breaking down with you today is the idea that you have to be religious to be pro-life. Both of us standing up here are religious, but as I mentioned during one of our questions earlier today, many of the people who work with this organization and the pro-life movement at large are not. This is not a religious denominational issue. This is not even a partisan issue. This is a human rights issue at the end of the day. I've had so many interesting conversations with people across the spectrum in the pro-life movement, from hyper capitalist libertarian Catholics all the way to atheist democratic socialists, which is a different conversation for a different time, that are noticing what is happening with the absolute, frankly, genocide that's happening against the preborn children in our society today because of one characteristic, their size and their age and being inside of a womb, and realizing that this is the greatest human rights atrocity that may have ever happened in all of human history. This puts the numbers of the Holocaust to shame, and not only do we let it happen, we celebrate it in the hallways of our college campuses, on America's streets, on our social media feeds, and everywhere in between. It certainly provides an interesting perspective if you are religious and believe that each person was created in the unique image of God, which is beautiful, but you don't have to be religious to believe that to be pro-life is the right answer.
The last lie is pro-lifers don't care about women, and hopefully you saw today in our comments that we absolutely do care about women. In the pro-life movement, pro-lifers have been supporting, sustaining more than 3,000 pregnancy resource centers, maternity homes, and communities across America for nearly 50 years in America. That vastly outnumbers the fewer than 600 abortion facilities. We already fund with our taxpayer dollars FQHCs, federally qualified health centers, that number nearly 8,000, that serve rural and low-income neighborhoods, that provide every service that Planned Parenthood provides, minus abortion, plus a whole host more of other services. And if you present yourself at a federally qualified health center and you need a health service they don't provide, they are legally obligated to make sure you get a referral to another health service and make sure you have transportation and help you find transportation to that health service. We are already funding that in our government today. In fact, my dream comes true when every Planned Parenthood in America shuts down. Each federally qualified health center would only have to see 2 more patients a week to make up the difference, because Planned Parenthood is seeing less than 2 million patients every year. Federally qualified health centers see more than 21 million men, women, and children every single year. As I pointed out before, when you talk about adoption statistics, foster care statistics, the demographic in America most likely to adopt or foster children are Christians. If you look at the demographic in America of who's most likely to be pro-life, not that you have to be, it's also Christians. It's always the same damn people. We're the ones with the big vans who show up to church on Sunday or go to Chick-fil-A on Saturday afternoon to gather up all of our chicken nuggets before Chick-fil-A closes on Sunday. We are proud of that fact. When you look on college campuses, what Students for Life does here at UNH, what Students for Life groups are doing across the country, we are the ones that set up diaper showers and enforce the Title IX laws that are already in place on college campuses. We're the ones who go out and pray or stand silently in front of Planned Parenthood's and other abortion facilities, offering offering women who've already had abortions hope and healing, and offering women who are considering abortion another nonviolent alternative. We are the ones hosting discussions on campuses for how to transform our campuses to be friendly towards pregnant and parenting students. That is who we are in the pro-life movement. So I want to thank you all for joining us here tonight. I don't think we need Q&A because I think we went through all the same questions. Surprisingly, every college campus we go to, whether it's a community college, whether it's Harvard, whether it's here, it's always the same 10 questions. So if you have a specific question that maybe is a little more nuanced of an answer, Isabel and I would be happy to answer those questions at the end. But I do think we went through most of the questions, and quite frankly, I'm just exhausted at this point. But I'm hopeful that hearing this discussion, hearing us answer these questions, equipped you to have better conversations online, in your classrooms, with your peers and student body. I want to thank you if you are pro-life here at UNH. You have a hard job to do. You all have been identified and outed on social media as extremists, and I want you to know that we have got your back. Please let us know if anything happens, if we need to step in with our general counsel, with our legal team, because this is absolutely insanity that we can't have a calm, rational discussion about a hard topic on a college campus without screaming and yelling and trombones or whatever the hell was playing out there today. I think the fact that, I thank the university for keeping us safe, but I think the fact that we had to put up barricades to protect us like I'm some freaking rock star, proves that this campus has a problem, and there's other campuses across the nation who have a problem, that they're fostering an environment on college campuses that allow this behavior. Let me tell you one thing. If I have to pay for bomb-sniffing dogs, if I have to pay for police services, which we had to pay today, if I have to pay for private bodyguards, free speech isn't free. This is a poll tax on free speech that pro-lifers are enduring here in America today. And we're going to continue to speak, because if we don't speak, they will win, and the truth will be silenced, and we refuse to let that happen. So thank you for joining us.
As we close out, I'll say one more word of encouragement to all of our students here. I know everybody's tired, so we'll go home. I was you. Literally just a couple of years ago, I was a student activist running an organization, standing out there with a folding table, handing out buttons and stickers and inviting people to events just like this one, where I was the student that everyone hated and had posters of my face everywhere at Colorado State University, and the death threats and my address getting doxxed and the campus police becoming my best friends and having to walk me all over campus to class. It is hard. It is really hard to stand for truth in a society that has abandoned that very concept. It's even harder to stand for things that are good and moral in a society that has abandoned the concept of objective morality and actual human rights. We're not here to tell you that this is going to be easy, to keep having these conversations, to pick up the torch of dialogue, to be posting this on your social media feed, to bring this up in your classroom where your professor is inevitably going to give you an F on your paper. But we've been there. We've been called every horrible name in the book. We were tonight. It was very fun. It's what we do for a living now because we have so much fun. But genuinely, our world, if this has not shown you from a visual perspective, has never needed this type of conversation more. And the more your academic institution that you are paying, by the way, they work for you, the more that they neglect that responsibility and that obligation to expose you to different ways of thinking and different perspectives and to challenge your beliefs, the more you have to dig in and demand it from them, okay? Keep having events like this. Keep tabling on campus. Keep talking to your peers. Keep having these conversations. We need it now more than ever, and don't let the loud voices of a few discourage you from standing in truth. It's an incredibly powerful thing. Thank you.